heavyweight division. Derrick Lewis coming off that loss in August for the interim title against Cyril Gane. He is going up against Chris Daukaus, who is, by this point, him and Aspinall are kind of neck and neck in terms of who's kind of the biggest
next
up and comer. Yeah, but I mean, they really are. You might as well just group them both together. But right now, Daukaus is a little further along, so I'll just say Daukaus is right now the biggest up and comer in this heavyweight division, the new blood. So Dominic, you got a couple guys who punch hard. That's what you're going to be looking to do here. But the power of Derrick Lewis is only comparable to maybe Francis Ngannou's power. So what does Chris Daukaus really offer here to combat that, to get around that?
Yeah, this really is an interesting fight, man, because first off, I do kind of hold Aspinall and Daukaus in that same boat in terms of like where they are currently. But the way that the UFC has moved along and pushed Chris Daukaus is very similar to what we've seen from current interim champion Cyril Gane, where this is going to be his 5th fight. He's undefeated. He's getting a top 3 guy. If he wins, he's 5-0, one away from a title. He'd be 6-0 fighting for a title. It's very similar, kind of the way that they were pushed in terms of their pacing. Daukaus is a guy that has incredible boxing, very crisp combinations. He does have the power to shut your lights off, obviously, as all of these heavyweights do. But Derrick Lewis is just that guy. He could be down for the count for 24 minutes and 59 seconds in this fight. But with 1 second left, just ask Mr. Alexander Volkov, it takes one shot and you're looking at the lights and Derrick Lewis is growling at you on the mat. That's one of the coldest things in UFC history. Then he's going to be talking about his balls post-fight press conference. So, man, this is a very intriguing fight. Derrick Lewis, it's a big fight for him. Can he stay at the top? Can he kind of fend off? This is kind of the first one for Derrick outside of Cyril Gane where it's those newcomers that he's trying to fend off. Obviously, Gane got past him. Can he hold off Daukaus here? And for Daukaus, the complete opposite, can he launch himself into truly elite title contention talks in just what will be his 5th UFC fight? He's riding a 5-fight win streak right now. He's in his prime at 32 years old. He was a police officer in Philadelphia, quit that job to become a UFC fighter full-time. He's truly dedicated now, Noah, so I'm very curious to see how this lifestyle change is going to work for him. I know that went into effect 1 or 2 fights ago, and we've only seen him get better since. Big test for him here, though. But in terms of like the all-around skill set, you still kind of lean toward Daukaus, and that's just the way it is in Derrick Lewis fights. So I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I said this with the Cyril Gane fight. Every measure you could make about that fight, besides power, every skill evaluation would make you come to the conclusion that Cyril Gane was going to win that fight. But with Derrick Lewis's power, you just never know.
Yep.
The guy really has the equalizer in the right hand. Chris Daukaus is not as well-rounded in terms of what he's shown so far. I know Dominic was mentioning a black belt off recording to me, but in terms of what he's shown, it's been very heavy on the pressure and the boxing. Yeah. And it looks good, and he's got good power. Look at what he did to Shamil Abdurakhimov. I mean, he had that man's head on a swivel. That was a nasty knockout. And I will say he showed some really good ground and pound there to get the finish too. But that's a tough game plan to go up against Derrick Lewis because while Derrick Lewis, I will say, at least if the Cyril Gane fight is any inclination, is that he kind of does struggle against the pressure. He does wilt a little under that pressure. Daniel Cormier, I think, exposed that a little bit too. But you're talking heavy pressure and simply off of what he can do with his hands.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not really, as far as I know, and Daukaus could come in here and show he's some amazing wrestler, and that all changes. But from what I've seen, I don't think there's much of a threat here for the level change.
Yeah.
So Lewis is simply dealing with the pressure on the feet. I mean, he can just start throwing some nasty overhand rights, and all it takes is one. I mean, you see that the Volkov fight is a prime example of being dominated for 14 minutes, and then with literally less than 15 seconds left in the fight, he lands the nasty overhand right that nearly knocks out the mouthpiece of Volkov, and then he just finishes him off. It's that's the fight. That's always the story going into a Lewis fight. But I do think it's interesting what you kind of touched on. The biggest theme I could come to with most of these fights, Dominic, is older fighters on losing streaks sometimes who are sort of fighting for their life, professionally speaking. And most of them are trying to hold off the young. So here's a little lesser because Derrick Lewis, yeah, he's older, but I mean, it kind of fits. Derrick Lewis trying to hold off Chris Daukaus, and we'll see as we go through. It's a lot of that. People with a loss could, if Lewis loses this, I think title aspirations are pretty much done.
Yep.
And I think as you go lower on the card, some of these people with the loss might be out of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's the case for Lewis, but for Daukaus, Dominic, I think an impressive enough showing here, he could put himself in line for a title shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you because I know you kind of said, well, you get one more and you get a title, but let's be honest. It seems like the top of heavyweight is just like a lot of guys just kind of it's the end of that Office episode where Andy, Dwight, and Michael are holding up the handguns at one another.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so Ciryl gone and Ngannou are going to fight next month. But you got Stipe, who's not fought since he lost the title. You got John Jones, who is supposedly making a debut in the division in 2022, but who knows on that. And you got guys like Curtis Blades hanging around who's taking some tough losses. I mean, Volkov's still there. I mean, you have these guys, but if Daukaus comes in here and starches Derrick Lewis,
he could.
And the only way that I think he doesn't, if he does that, I think the only way he doesn't get a title shot is if John Jones really does make that debut.
Right. And even then, it's like, okay, well, the only guy left is Stipe, but is Stipe going to want to fight Chris Daukaus? I mean, he still could just kind of be like, you know what? Let me take some time here, and then maybe I still get a title shot. You just never know.
It's so interesting. Stipe is such an interesting variable because I can't see him fighting a lot of these guys, but he kind of needs to get another title fight. So, I don't know. But we'll move on to the co-main event.
Yeah.
Another interesting fight, 2 top 10 in the welterweight division. Yes, the headline says remember the name, but it's not really because that's the nickname of one of our competitors in Belal Muhammad, who's going up against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But I think this is a bit of remember the name because I think for the winner, it's kind of going to be a wake-up call to the rest of the division, like, hey, don't forget about me.
Yep.
Because Wonderboy, after that loss to Gilbert Burns over the summer, I think everybody kind of just said, all right, it was nice to kind of have Wonderboy about to maybe fight for a title, but I think that's done.
So close, yeah.
But, and I'm not saying a win here gets him there, but I'm just saying, man, can't count him out. The guy is such a unique fighter. He doesn't really seem to be slowing down, even though he's 40 years old now.
He turns 39 next month. He said he's going to be 39 next month.
So you would think he would start to slow down because his style is so karate heavy, so movement heavy. But he's taken such good care of himself over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not the case, and we know how elite he is when it comes to being that puzzle on the feet. Belal Muhammad gets some unfair criticism online, I would say. It's like people love him for his personality, but then they like kind of shit on him at the same time.
Yeah.
My big takeaway, my big hold up with Belal is that he's shows to be good at pretty much everything. I mean, he is adequate. He is UFC caliber at pretty much anything that you can measure from what I've seen.
Right.
But where's the elite skill? Where's Belal Muhammad's strength lie? I haven't really seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing that's holding him back is that he hasn't really had that performance in any of his fights that's been like a defining performance.
Yeah.
You look at some of his fights in his career and there's been a lot on the dollar side. And, he hasn't really had to, I don't know, he hasn't had any wars really that have stuck out as like, oh, did you watch the Belal Muhammad fight? Like that just hasn't happened.
Right.
So I think that's what's really held him back is he's not really had any win that people have cared enough about to kind of get him to the next level. He somehow makes his way to the top 10. The win over Damian Maia, though, Dominic, I'm just being honest. I don't see how Wonder Boy loses this fight, if I'm being honest.
I agree. I think this is a very hard fight for Belal to win, and I know you said, and you've said it a lot when we talk about him, he is good everywhere. But when you're going up against a tactician and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who does have great cardio as well to go along with it, his pacing is unreal. His fight with Jeff Neal is one of the best performances, maybe the best I've ever seen him look. That was such an incredible fight by him for 5 rounds before he lost to Gilbert. Now, obviously, there are still vulnerabilities for Thompson, right? I mean, he's shown that he can be prominent to takedowns. So, I mean, if you're Belal, is that kind of going to be your method victory here? Not that you've shown to be like this great wrestler, or are you just going to try and pressure Wonderboy up against the fence, clinch him up, hold him there, try and take him down? I don't know if that's going to work against Wonderboy Thompson, man. I really don't. And if it's
can I just add that
yeah,
I think some people will look at the Gilbert Burns fight and go, well, look at how Burns took him down so much. He's the only guy who's done that. Wonderboy Thompson has had exceptional takedown defense through his whole career.
Yes.
Gilbert Burns is just that damn good. I
100%.
think there's a big level up when going from the wrestling or grappling of Belal Muhammad to Gilbert Burns.
Yes, that's a fair point, and I'm glad you brought that up. So again, that leads us to, okay, well, it's a stand-up fight, right? Every fight starts standing, and if we're at a distance, dude, no one's better at distance fighting than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson with his karate style. Belal's going to have to just really get in there, like phone booth style fighting, really make it gritty and tough. And even then, I just don't know if it'll be enough. I'm not counting him out. I'm just saying it's a very hard fight for him to win. And if he can make a statement rather than just kind of grind a decision, it will really make a case for people to remember his name. And for Thompson, I know you said, like, we're not ready to rule him out of title contentions, and I agree. No, I'm not either, because if he wins this and maybe one more, who's the one guy Kamaru Usman has not fought yet? It's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So that's always going to kind of keep him in there for title talks. It is a very interesting co-main event.